Hello and welcome back, true believers, to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we've got another great guest on the show. We've got P. Michael Hayes the second, and we are going to dive into his magical world. But before we do, remember to like, comment, subscribe. And I see some of you people are watching these videos, but you're not subscribing. I mean, what the hell, guys? I mean, seriously, just subscribe to the channel because we're doing something that most of these review channels aren't doing. We're interviewing people who work in the industry and we're getting their take on how to make movies and TV shows. But other than that, let's go ahead and dive in. Michael, how are you doing on this fine was it Easter Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me. And yeah, go subscribe. If you're listening to this, you should go subscribe to whoever you listen to. It's tough making content and putting it out there. So definitely subscribe.
Yeah, especially if we're churning this out on a weekly basis. I mean, come on, people. We're doing this at least two or three times a week. How do you have the energy? I don't know. So Mike, so Mike, man, when you sent me an email a few months ago. I think it was either a few months ago or last year, expressing interest in being on the podcast, and you were one of the first people to respond readily and just say, "Hey, yeah, I'm ready to go on whenever you're good to go." So I definitely do appreciate the enthusiasm. But let's go ahead and dive in. Michael, can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what what drives your passion?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how I heard about your outreach, but I love talking shop. I love talking all things film and television and everything within the industry and what it looks like from the outside. So it just seemed like a really great opportunity to just hop in and do something I've never done. And I don't think I've ever been on a podcast before. So yeah, this will
Oh,
be
cool.
this will be a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'm an actor, director, writer. I'm in Austin, Texas. Yeah, and I've been working in the film industry ever since 2020. Actually, it was like a COVID pivot maneuver. I was managing a gym, and then COVID happened, and it took those couple weeks, those couple months. I was like, I always wanted to work on a set. Like as an actor, I'd be on set, and I was just like, oh, I love this. I love being on set. Every day I would show up to a film set and just, oh, this seems great. And so I just kind of wanted to dive in.
Yeah.
And in the film industry during COVID, a new department was made in the production side of things. It was like a COVID department or a health and safety department. So a lot of people kind of, entered into film production and the industry that way through COVID. A lot of people like who weren't previously in the industry got in that way. And
Really?
I was one of those people. Yeah.
So I just want to stop you right there because I've interviewed a lot of people who did what you did. They either started a production company or they got into film right at the start of 2020, but they never mentioned anything about that department. Is that something that's specific to Austin or
Oh
what?
no, that's all over.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. As far as I know, before COVID, if there was some type of like health and safety department, which again, I don't think there was, you would just pretty much had like a set medic, right? So you had this trained and certified medic, usually like a first responder or like a former paramedic or something like that, and they would be on set. And so after COVID, we quickly realized that well, we can't just shut down all these film productions. We need to keep making content. We need to keep, making films for all the reasons. And so they created new departments, health and safety departments, who were essentially like COVID departments. And so these were the people that would hand out PPE or be in charge of the testing and, these big departments. I mean, as small as anywhere between half a dozen people in your health and safety department, but then you include all the trained and skilled nurses and medical professionals that would come in and do your COVID testing like on set. So these departments became an integral part of the working film production for well over a year and a half, maybe going into 2 years.
Yeah. So was that so you said that's how you got your start was going through that department?
Yeah, so I grew up an actor, like grew up in the theater, and I was always on stage. And so, I was my intro into being on a film set was as an actor. But then I quickly realized like I could be a PA, I could, be in the AD department or something like that. And so yeah, when COVID came along, I answered this job site, and it was like, hey, are you looking for, like, it was literally a ad saying, hey, are you looking for your foot in the door of film production? Because we've got an opportunity. And so basically I was on this was an Austin based company that it was called Pro Texas. And basically what we did is these guys who were these two individuals who were my bosses, they started this company, and they were locations heads. So like the locations department, they were the head of the locations department, and they created this company called Pro Texas. And what we would do is we'd go and we'd sanitize film sets and trailers and picture cars, and we'd have wipes, and we'd have these like big like Ghostbuster looking backpacks, and we'd like spray this disinfectant. Because I mean, remember in 2020, mid 2020, like the fear of COVID was like very real, and like we were
Oh
just
yeah, yeah.
rolling out vaccines, and so everyone was like really like, oh, I don't want to touch anything, I don't want to breathe anyone's air. So if every day we'd be there, before anyone else, and we'd sanitize all the trailers and trucks and everything like that, and then at the end of the day we'd do it again. So that was my introduction into working on film sets, and then I kind of like parlayed that into like being a PA, and then moving into the locations department, and then moving into camera department.
Yeah, so walk me through that journey, because because when I've spoken with people who start off on film sets, I remember chatting with Keith Sweeney. He actually works at the craft services table for film and TV sets, and he told me that you always make connections with all these people, and the people you bring on, you kind of if someone says I want to do this or that, he kind of points them in that direction. So can you walk me through the journey of how you went from spraying down film sets with like I'm imagining like Clorox and Lysol, because that's what I did at my office for 2 years, to becoming an integral part of the film production process.
Sure. And big shout out to our craft service individuals. Big shout out to Keith, because those
I mean, much.
any,
I mean, that guy's a Trekkie. I mean, anybody. First of all, that anyone who is a Trekkie is all right by my book. All right.
anyone that handles my food and coffee, like big shout out to them. Yeah. So without going into any of the science and details, we used a like plant-based disinfectant that was also like electrostatically charged, so that the particles allegedly would stick to surfaces better and help clean it better. Yeah, like whatever, who knows.
It's
Yeah,
99% effective, they say.
yeah, exactly. I was the company's first hire, so I kind of like took point. And again, like I've been on film sets before, I kind of have this like understanding of like film sets and how they work, and like film set hierarchy, like who do you talk to, who do you not talk to, who do you bother, who do you not bother, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then I worked for that company for I think like 2 years. And then 2 years into the pandemic, we've had vaccines and everything, and everyone's kind of just like, yeah, they're over it. Everyone's just over COVID. And so the company was stopped getting contracts, and production stopped hiring this company for this type of service. So then I was like, well, I've been on this film set for like 2 years. I feel like I can hop into pretty much any department that I had an interest in. So I had an interest in the AD department and the locations department. So let's try it. Let's go and be a PA. So then I took this job as a walkie PA on the Disney Plus show National Treasure, which was filming in Baton Rouge. And funny enough, like I went to LSU. I went to school in Baton Rouge. So this was like such a great opportunity, and just like, oh yeah, I get to go kick it in my old stomping grounds. And then that turned out to be like my first real AD department staff job, and I was there for the whole run of the show, and it was just like a wonderful, wonderful experience.
So so how do you? I guess where do you go after that?
Yeah, so starting if you want to do like career film production work, I would say get started early. And so this was just, what, 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And so like I'm already in my 30s. I was like my first staff job, and I was like, the AD, to become an AD, which you have to be a certain special kind of sick in the head to want to be an AD, but that's kind of how my brain works. I can, very organized and type A personality is like, yeah, I could be an AD, but you're supposed to start being an AD or being a PA in your 20s, because you have to get like 600 days of being a PA in order to like become an AD. And
Yeah.
so, starting in your 30s, just not making that much money as a PA. And I was like, well, maybe the AD route isn't for me. Maybe in another life I could have done that. So then I called up my bosses who were locations managers, and I was like, hey, I'd like to transition into your department, into locations department. Sure, no problem. We're shooting in Savannah. We're shooting this last season of Fear of the Walking Dead in Savannah, Georgia. We got a spot for you. Come on out. So then I, went from Baton Rouge straight on out to Savannah, Georgia, and hopped in the locations department and started filming, working on Fear of the Walking Dead.
Now, now, one of the things that, that crops into my head whenever I hear people talk about that, either being a PA or or an AD or DP is, you have to have some like a certain level or certain technical knowledge of the process in order to in order to get that job. It's kind of like it's kind of like with any job where they kind of look at your qualifications. You have to be proficient in certain skill sets in order to qualify for that. Did that ever come up in conversation when you were kind of gunning for these jobs?
Um,
Because you said you started off as an actor, really.
yeah, yeah. And I've directed and shot like a bunch of music videos at this time. Like I was a musician and like a long time ago, a decade ago. So I had this like just a lot of general knowledge and general experience, like filming and on a film set. And then you, as an actor, like you kind of see how things work. And I don't know, if you pay attention and you have like an awareness of what you're doing on set, I feel like you can like kind of learn a little bit just by observing.
Hmm.
So the job in Baton Rouge came to me from a friend of mine who is an AD. She's a wonderful AD, and she works out of New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And she already had a job. She got the call, and she goes, "Well, I got a guy in Texas who would be really great at this job, this staff position. So why don't you call him?" So really, the age old adage of it's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, that is very much the case here in film production. Yes, you got to have the skills, because if somebody puts your name out there and says, hey, hire my boy, hire Luca, and then Luca shows up and Luca doesn't know what he's doing, then that's
Yeah.
not a good look for Luca or the person who put your name out there. So yeah, my friend Leah, she put me up for the job, and I kind of just came in there, and I knew that, right? And I was just like, well, I better crush it. So I just showed up with a lot of positivity and a lot of energy, and just crushed the job.
But but obviously, like she was aware that you had some technical competency in order to kind of put your name out there.
Yeah, we
You
had
know.
previously worked, when I was with that sanitation company, that COVID company. I had worked on a film set, and I had met her in Louisiana on some Disney show that she was working on. And so we met there. She kind of saw my work ethic. She saw like, oh, this guy gets it. He could do this job. So yeah, a little bit of experience, a little bit of who you know.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, because working on a film set, I mean, obviously it's fast paced. Time is money, obviously, and there's just so much going on. It can feel like a sort of organized chaos. How are you able to kind of pick up on what's around you? Is that something that you kind of have to teach yourself, or does that come instinctively, or what?
I love film and I love filmmaking. And I just, again, like as an actor sitting on set, I was just like, I love this. I love the organized chaos. I love, 150 people coming together to like make this one shot. Like everyone's got a certain job. So I just have loved it from the very first moment I ever stepped on set. And I just like had this fascination with it. So, yeah, maybe like you said, maybe I kind of taught myself along the way. If I did, it was kind of subconsciously. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty observant person. So just picking up everything around me. And again, if you're just passionate about it and if you care, and that was one of the things that my first AD on that show told me. Is like, he had brought me aside and he's like, I like you because you care. Like it's very obvious that you care. So yes, time is money. And it is a fast-paced moving thing, and you do have your job, and you got to get your job done, and preferably get it done quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you bring a level of like integrity and a level of care, like I care about the production, I care about the people on the production, I care about like my team and the team around them. So yeah, just bring a level of consideration and care to it, and I feel like that shows, and people will pick up on that.
So, what was the most difficult thing for you to pick up on set?
Hmm. The most difficult thing. So I was a I was the walkie PA, right? So there's usually on an AD team you have like your first team PA, you have your background PA, you have a couple extra PAs, and then you have a walkie PA. You have one PA whose job is not only to be a part of the AD team and be a PA, but he's kind of in charge. He or she is kind of in charge of all of the production walkie talkies. And so that was a absolute nightmare. I mean, we're talking, 200 walkies that the production has rented out, and I'm, trying to keep track of them on these spreadsheets. And I got grips and stuff losing their walkies or losing their antennas. And so you just constantly, I think, having previously never done that, it was the like accounting of the walkie talkies and just like, getting them all back and making sure they're all charged. That was the thing that I had to learn the most, right? Because everything else kind of came a little bit naturally, just knowing how sets work and again, like that social hierarchy of a set, like I kind of had a good feel for that. So it really was the actual like dealing with the walkie talkies. I'm kind of like a social person, and your walkie PA is literally going out and talking to pretty much every individual of every single department. And so like, that's really good for like a social butterfly. You can conversate with anyone. But getting them all back and just like, having that organizational skills was something I had to learn and pick up on the fly.
Yeah, and I was going to say because with walkie-talkies, you kind of think, oh, it's just a walkie-talkie, it's no big deal. But when you take into consideration just how busy the set is and how many people are involved, you begin to appreciate just how organized you need to be in order to make sure everything's running smoothly. Because I mean, because again, I mean, you're like you said, you're renting out these walkie-talkies, and if one goes missing, I mean, God help the person who lost it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean these are two $300 walkie talkies, and then there's at least double. We so say we had 200 walkie talkies valued at $200 each, and then we have double that amount of batteries, and you have all these chargers. So it's just a lot of physical equipment to like manage and get a hold of. So God forbid we leave the studios and we go out on location. Now I'm just like lugging these these things around, which is that's all part of the day in the life of film production. I think that's one of the things that I love the most about it is like, here's an army of 200 people or 150 people, and we can literally like pick up a whole house and move it and pick up a whole set and change the room and flip it around. And I think that's part of the beauty and magic of filmmaking is that, with all these people, you can literally accomplish anything and make a room look a certain way and flip it and turn it and get the reverse angle. It's that's one of the cooler things about working on film.
yeah, it's kind of like a military operation if you think about it. You gotta go in and kind of
Yeah,
be efficient about all of that.
just with a lot more lazy grips. Yeah.
Exactly. So this leads me to another question. So, what department have you not worked in yet that you feel would be beneficial to for you to work in to kind of level up your game?
None. No, I
In
haven't
case
worked.
anybody's watching.
Yeah, right. No, I haven't worked in the grip department. I haven't worked in the electrical department, but I honestly have no desire to do either. I mean, I went ahead and tried the departments that I thought one I had a natural ability to do and a general interest in. Right. So the AD department, I loved it. I loved every second of being in the AD department. If I would have gotten started a decade earlier, I would be a full blown AD. Absolutely. Um, then I transitioned to locations department. I get locations, it's logistics, it's practicality. It's like, okay, here's this, 5-acre lot. Like, where are we parking? Where are the bathrooms? Where's the catering? Like, I get that. My brain works that way. So locations department was super fun. And then I also tipped my toes into the camera department, which was a lot of fun. As an artist, as an actor, and like I said, director, like I do have this vision of like how I see things and how I would want to shoot things. So I was like, well, I might as well try the camera department again. Loved the camera department. Yeah, I was beginning my film production career in a time that was really disadvantageous to do so. Aside from getting in the door with the COVID thing, um, again, I'm in my mid 30s, and then all these strikes happened over the last 2 years, right? So like I was in line for a pretty good camera gig, and then the strikes happened. And so it just a full-blown career in film production hasn't quite panned out for me yet, and I don't know if it ever will. which is just as fine too, you know?
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean, and that's the thing too, because people who go into the film industry, they think, I'm going to make it big within the next few years, but they don't realize just how grueling it is to kind of work your way to the top.
Grueling's a good word. If you don't have any, like family attachments or prior responsibilities, and you're willing to work 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 16-hour days, then do it. And if you have a passion for it, then do it. It's a lot of fun. Like, I love everything about working on a film set except the hours. I'm a firm believer in like a nice, healthy work-life balance. And man, you're 12 hours a day on your feet, 14 hours a day on your feet. It's just like, yes, I care about this. Yes, I'm passionate about this, but it's also like a lot of uncertainty. When am I coming in tomorrow? I have no idea. How long will I be there? I have no idea. You're kind of you're at the beck and call of the production.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that is the drawback of working in film,
So I want to step back a little bit, because you said that you started off in acting, and particularly theater acting. Can you maybe talk about how you got started in theater acting?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I grew up in the church, and I was a pretty involved kid in the church. And so the church would oftentimes put on like skits and plays and like in our youth groups and stuff like that. So I was always just like big, I was like always just like a big personality, and I would like, kind of lead these things. And then, once I got the opportunity in high school, I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm definitely taking theater. My best friend growing up, his dad was very heavily involved in the local community theater. So I was always going to plays. My mom always took me to these like touring plays. So like the theater was always in my life, and it was always something I did. And then that transitioned to like, I was always at the movie theater. I've worked at movie theaters before. I've just like always had this like thing with film and theater, and it was always a thing. So high school comes around, I'm in theater, I'm taking 4 years of theater, I'm just involving myself in the arts. And then I minored in theater briefly in college. I was in a couple stage productions in college. And yeah, so it's just this thing that was like always with me. Like, I was always on stage, I was always in the theater. And let's see, 2018, I'm living here in Austin, and I get the lead role in this graduate student thesis film here at the University of Texas. And it was this action film. And I was like, well, I've never done an action film. And I just like had the best time. And it was such a fun experience. And, here at the University of Texas, they have such a great film program, and they have access to such amazing resources and such amazing equipment. And so the film popped off, and it was really well done, and I got to like do this fight scene. So in 2018, I just kind of reminded myself, I was like, oh yeah, you like acting, like why don't you do this a little bit, a little bit more seriously. Got myself into an acting class, and I've just kind of been doubling down on it ever since.
But you weren't working as an actor professionally, right?
I don't think I've ever crossed the line into like being a working professional actor. I don't think I've got there yet.
Gotcha. Is that something that you still want to do, or are you primarily focused on the film
Yeah.
aspect?
So earlier I said I was a musician, right? And so I have at one point in my life, in a chapter of my life, I was a touring musician, professional musician, had no other job, no other income besides music. And that was a lot of fun. And that was a dream and a goal in and of itself. I learned a lot through that process, and I have learned that I don't want to rely solely on my art to be my only income. So would I like to be a professional working actor? Yeah, that would be great. I am truly in it for the craft. Like, I love the craft of acting. I'm fascinated by it. Like, I'm in class now, I'm reading books now, like I'm auditioning now. So if that comes my way, great. I just know that I'm never going to put acting down. It's going to be something that I do for the rest of my life. So if I become this working professional actor, great. If not, that's cool too. I've got a nice job now, a nice steady job that I'm passionate about and that I care about, in a field that I care about. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, no, that's fine, because the thing is that there are a lot of individuals out there who are passionate about their craft, and they put everything they can into it, but they're also kind of I mean, what's the right word? I guess they're kind of held back by the real world because they understand that sometimes it may not be, the best option economically. I remember during the actors strike, they did some interviews with some actors who were members of SAG, and they were saying, yeah, after paying, X amount of dollars for dues for membership and all that stuff, I barely have enough to cover, groceries and paying the rent and all that stuff. So so on the one hand, it's like, it'd be cool to do this professionally, but at the same time, you kind of have to remember that there are actual costs in the real world where it may not be viable for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a risky business relying on your art as your only income. And I've also what I learned, and this is only my experience, so I don't want to speak for anyone else, but it kind of put pressure on my art in a weird way that I didn't like. I think I am able to grow so steadily as an actor now because I'm not putting pressure on it. Like I have this great acting coach here in Austin, and like I'm auditioning, and I'm a part of these like great projects here because like I, I don't know, I just like I don't have to rely on the art as my income, So if I didn't have a job, I'd be like, oh, I got to get this commercial. Oh, I have to book this film. Oh, I have to book this part, and it puts a unnecessary pressure onto your art, onto your craft.
Right, right, because just creates more unnecessary stress.
Right, and
Yeah.
that creates like a weird relationship between the artist and their art. Like if you were a painter and you only made money off of selling your paintings, that would create a stress in your life. Be like, oh, I have to sell this painting. I have to, or not only I have to sell this painting, I have to paint something good enough to make X amount of money. So again, it creates a weird relationship and it creates a weird amount of pressure.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I want to ask, so you're working, what well, your passion is acting, and then you got your foot in the door in the film industry. Have you made any, individual films or shorts or anything?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking. That's such a good question. I have at the let's see, I don't know, man, maybe like October, November of 2020. This director I had previously worked with, he called me, Robert Smith. We worked together in this really cool mockumentary, and he calls me one day. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm going to enter this film race. These like timed film competitions where you heard of like the 24-hour film festival, 48-hour
Yeah, yeah,
film
yeah,
festival. So
yeah.
this was a 100-hour film race." So you got like 4 days or 5 days or whatever that math is. 4 days. So he goes, I want to work with you on this thing. I was like, yeah, great. Like, let's do it. And he goes, no, 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 I want you to direct it. And I go, oh, interesting. So this previous director I had acted for is now calling me to like be a director. And he's like, I really think you could do this. Like I after working with you on set, I think you should do this. And so I kind of was like, okay, like I like to say yes to things when opportunities come my way, when the universe gives you something, I kind of like to say yes to it.
Mhm.
So me and my friend Tay Cannon, who's another actor and at the time was the lead singer in the band that I was in, we kind of put our heads together and we wrote this script. And then come December 2020, the film race happens, and we execute the film, we shoot it. And I bring on a friend of mine, Kylie, as my co-director, and she shot the thing, and Robert helped shoot the thing, and called in a couple friends. And yeah, so we wrote this short and we shot this short and we put it out. I think it's 15 minutes long. It's called Super Therapy, and it was such a phenomenal experience. Just like writing, producing, and directing this short, and it's out there, and I'm just like so proud of it. And it's not perfect, it's not like world changing, but it's like it's ours and it's our story, and it's super fun, and we get to play these characters that we just like had a lot of fun with. And we all got to showcase a little bit of our talents in a lot of different ways. And so yes, I have produced and written and directed a short, and it's out there in the world. It's called Super Therapy, and if you're listening to this, yeah, go check it out. It's 15 minutes. It's a lot of fun, and it's probably not what you think it is.
So, what was it like, actually, writing and directing a film? Because I'm assuming this is something you've never done before, right?
So in high school, as a junior and senior, my theater teacher would invite us to write one-act plays.
Okay.
So in junior year of high school and senior year of high school, I wrote I wrote one act play each year, and then we put them on. So it's something I like had experience with like 15 years prior. And I'm a high school kid. Like, what the hell do I know? And I'm sure they were corny, and I'm sure they were bad. And I'm just really glad that no one has a recording of those. So I had a little bit of experience in it. Me and my buddy Tay, we would work out in the garage, and we kind of just like, we'd spit ideas out together. And eventually, after a couple of weeks of that, we had this pretty tight script. We invited my friend Ronaldo, who went to LSU with me. He's a rapper and an artist, and just like this incredible Renaissance man. He's got like 4 degrees from 3 different universities. This theater background. I think he's got like a degree in like Shakespeare or something. It's wild. The guy's absurdly talented. So we wrote him in. He's like the main character of the film, and the experience was just like so gratifying and so like empowering. I mean, to take something, to write it, and then also the experience was extremely collaborative. I mean, I didn't do any part of this by myself. Like, Tay helped write it, Reno helped bring it to life. I invited my friend Kylie to help come shoot the thing and co-direct it with me, because I was like, you have an incredible vision, I've seen your music videos, I've seen your work, like, please come help with this. So the experience altogether was nothing short of incredible and life-changing, and it made me realize, like, oh, it's really possible to write something, shoot it, create it, and now you have this, you own this, like, this is our thing now. And now we have, like, it's something to call your own in this world of like all of this media and all of this content. Like, you have your own, and I'm sure I'm sure you feel the same way, where you're just like, you've created something and now you have this thing, and it's just there's just no greater feeling than to have something and to put it out there and to be proud of it.
So what did you learn from Kylie, as a co-director?
Oh my gosh. She's brilliant. She's got such a great vision and such a great like mastery of her craft. And she's a like extraordinary editor. And she's just like, she has seen things from an angle that I wouldn't see, and vice versa. I would hope to think. And the way she shoots things with like different focus techniques and camera techniques and editing techniques. She's just really helped kind of capture a side of the story that I wouldn't have been there without her.
So, so was there anything new that you learned in making that movie, or I guess anything that was different from, from what you had already learned, working in theater and working on film sets?
Yeah, directing is really like executing a vision, and I've done a good bit of that with music videos. Like, I've got, at least half a dozen music videos under my belt. So learning something with this narrative, like a piece of narrative storytelling, I think I learned a lot about coverage. I learned a lot about continuity. I learned a lot about making sure the important beats. I'd say that learning and identifying what your important beats are in the script, but also in your vision, like in the way you see it in your head. Know what those important beats are and make sure you've got those a number of different ways, so that in the editing room you can say, I thought I wanted it to look like this, but we have this other shot and I think it just works a little bit better. So like I learned, I'd say, the most, identifying your beats, your important moments of the story you're trying to tell, and make sure you have enough of that. Because when we're doing this on a shoestring budget and we're doing this under time constraints, and so some things just got mixed, right? Or they got missed, excuse me. Some things just got missed, and we ended up telling the story anyway, and beautifully. And I think a part of creating something is taking these imperfect parts that you have and like making them work, and like kind of accepting that imperfection, and part of the beauty of it all. But yeah, I'd say that, like, identify your important beats and make sure you got those down.
Gotcha. So you live in Austin, Texas, and when you hear Austin, you think of a lot of things. You think of South by Southwest. You think of the University of Texas of Austin. You think of like the sort of hipster kind of, paradise, scenario. But you never really think of of a film scene over there. Well, not as big of an indie film scene like you would see in, say, Portland or New York or LA, or even places like Boston or in the Carolinas. What's the film scene like over there?
Yeah, so it is really under the radar, the scene here. I think it all stems from there's a couple big anchor points that happen here in Austin that really that the scene grows around. So one would be the university, right? I mean, they have this storied film and television program here at the university. Um, I've done numerous student films and graduate films, and yeah, so I think it all starts there at the university. You know, McConaughey was here; he's like a adjunct professor here now. But then Robert Rodriguez has a studio here, Troublemaker Studios, and him and Tarantino have worked together on like Death Proof here in Austin. I mean, a lot of things. And Robert just put out like a film with Ben Affleck, I think like last year or 2 years ago. It was pretty good. So you know, they've got these like really low key things. Linklater shoots here all the time. So we've got these like low key, like big fish in this small pond. But then I think, you know, in the last 5 years, lots of studios are coming here. I mean, we built not we, they have built these big film studios out in Bastrop, which is like 30 minutes east of here. Anyway, it's like 30 minutes away. I mean, big film studios are a lot of money has been poured into Texas in the last 5 years about opening new film studios. So the scene here is low key. It is growing. It is, you know, independent, but I think there's a lot of big things ahead for the film scene here in Austin.
So has it been growing over the past 20 years or so, would you say?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, with the involvement of like Linklater and Robert Rodriguez, I think that it has been slowly growing. I mean, when did they shoot? Oh my gosh, it's escaping me right now. Uh, oh well, yeah. Back in the '80s, and back in the '80s, they shot this like iconic film here that I can't think of the name of it. It was McConaughey's big break, but yeah. So I think it's slowly been growing. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean, I mean, that's a fascinating thing because you never think that cities like Austin would be the hub of film activity, even though they kind of, from the surface they kind of look like they're ripe for it. You
Austin's a
know,
cool place, man. I mean, Austin has a lot to offer. Central Texas has a lot to offer, and then like geographically, like visually, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of space here. There's a lot of like land out here to do things with. Um, Austin's an amazing city. It's like a small, big city. I mean, like geographically, it's not very big. There are a lot of people here, but it also has a lot. It's a big entertainment like stopping off point. I mean, yes, you got the university, but then we have like the Formula One track. Now we have the MLS soccer team here, and like big touring music acts come through here all the time. I mean, like Austin's a happening place, and I've loved being here for the last 8 years.
yeah. And I already mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. You've also got South by Southwest, which is
South by Southwest, Austin Film Festival,
yep,
yeah,
Austin City Limits. Also, I mean,
Austin
I
City Limits, yeah.
I grew up watching that show religiously, and I was like, you know what, I would love to produce a show like that one
Oh, those
day.
tapings are great, yeah.
I mean, and also think about how many great acts comes through. It's like the biggest one for me was when they got Robert Plant on there, and I'm like, holy shit,
Mm,
they got the guy
yeah,
from Led Zeppelin on there.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So so I want to go ahead and just wrap it up. But
Okay.
Michael, if people want to learn more about your work, if they want to connect with you, where can they do that?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is just follow me on Instagram. I'm not like the most active Instagram person, but my Instagram handle is PM Hayes II. That stands for Patrick Michael Hayes II. So PMHAYES II. Yeah, that's where you can like find my IMDb page. You can find a link to my short there. Yeah, and just keep up with me with all the acting stuff that I got going on.
Excellent, excellent. So before we wrap up, I have to ask my guests all these questions. The same question for every episode we do. What's your favorite movie or TV show that you've seen recently that you want to give a shout out to?
Hmm.
Could be either or.
Favorite movie or TV show that I've watched recently. I watched okay, so like every year that when the Oscars come around, I try to just like crush all of the Oscars and like watch all the Oscar nominated films, particularly like the ones that are nominated for the best actor and best actresses. So let's see. I really resonated with May December with Natalie Portman and oh my gosh, I'm doing so bad on names today. Um, oh well. May December was really great, really wonderful performances from the two leading ladies there. What was it? I mean, obviously, of course, Oppenheimer was a phenomenal film, and Killian did great. I recently watched Rustin with Coleman Domingo. I had this special soft place in my heart for Coleman because, I don't know if you know this, he was a big character in the Walking Dead series, the Fear of the Walking Dead series. And so, getting to work with him, day in and day out on the show and the production side of things, and then getting to see this meteoric rise of his well-deserved acting accolades is just like really, really like heartwarming. I mean, this guy is just the nicest guy on set, and then he's such an incredibly talented actor, and then to watch him like really get recognized for these like just outstanding acting performances that he's doing lately. So Rustin, if you haven't watched Rustin, it's on Netflix, and well worth the watch, and Coleman is well deserving of that Academy Award nom.
Coleman, we love you.
We love you, Coleman. Shout out Coleman Domingo. Luca, thanks so much for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. And thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this episode. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao, Bella.
Subscribe.